Hello students, today I am going to discuss with you Amish Tripathi's fictional work, The Immortals of Meluha, a very important text which is prescribed here in our university in popular literature paper. Now, Amish Tripathi, very well known name, was celebrity. You can find him on Twitter, on Facebook, on all platforms of social media. He is foremost among the popular fiction writers. He is a trending Indian English writer who narrates mythological stories with logical explanations to make the modern readers believe them. When we say popular literature, we mean a special kind of literature. It includes those writings which are intended for the masses and those that find favor with a large audience. The purpose of the writings of popular literature is to catch the attention of the masses. And Amish Tripathi fits very much to this category. Now, this popular literature can be distinguished from artistic literature in the sense that it is designed primarily to entertain. When we study high literature, when we read high literature, the purpose becomes aesthetic. Here, the basic purpose is to entertain, and the intention is rather commercial. Now, Tripathi's novels like The Immortals of Meluha, The Secret of Nagas, and The Oath of Vayuputras are the three novels that make the Shiva Trilogy series. I'll tell you about Ramchandra series also, but this is the Shiva Trilogy consisting of three important works: The Immortals of Meluha, The Secret of Nagas, and The Oath of Vayuputras. Now, if we look at the family background of Amish, so we find that Tripathi grew up in a religious household. His grandfather was a Pandit and a teacher at Banaras Hindu University, BHU. He belonged to a middle class family who encouraged the religious and worldly learning. Since a very early age, he was a voracious reader. One of his favorite subjects was history. Belonging to a traditional bourgeois family, he had to make a career choice because he had a lot of responsibility also on his shoulder. After graduation from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai in science, Tripathi went on to study business administration. He received his MBA from Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta. For 14 years, he worked in the field of finance as marketing and product manager at multiple firms, including Standard Chartered, DBS Banks, and IDBI Federal Life Insurance. According to the author himself, because you find many interviews of Amish Tripathi on social media, and also they are published in various newspapers. So author himself believed that he never, he said in one of his interviews that he never intentionally wanted to pursue a career in writing. Studying science and finance also inspired him to become a scientist or an industrialist. However, fate has something else planned for him. Fate was that he would become a great, author. Now, if we look at his biographical details, then we find that he had active interest in gymnastics, athletics, and boxing in his student life. His Shiva Trilogy was the fastest selling book series in Indian publishing history, while the Ramchandra series was the second fastest selling book series in Indian publishing history. Later on, I'll tell you about his literary works, but here I would like to tell you that his 9 books have sold over 5.5 million copies in the Indian subcontinent since 2010. This was the previous data which I collected. And Forbes India has regularly ranked Tripathi among the top 100 celebrities in India. Tripathi is a prolific Indian English writer, and I have just told you that he narrates mythological stories with logical explanation to make the modern readers believe them. And this is actually the trend of rewriting the myths. And we have a long line of writers who are rewriting the myths in order to show the myths with contemporary relevance. At one place, Amish says that myth is nothing but the jumbled memories of past. Now, all of Tripathi's books released and planned, he has written many books, that I told you he's a prolific writer. They are on religious topics. Most of the texts, most of the books are on religious topics. Now, being an atheist in his youth, Amish returned to faith while writing his first book, which I am going to discuss. His grandfather was a Sanskrit scholar and Pandit in Varanasi. And Tripathi says that he has gathered most of his knowledge of Hindu mythology and religion from his grandfather and his religious parents. If we come to literary creations of Amish, because I'm going to discuss in this video lecture the Immortals of Meluha. But before that, this kind of background is very much required to understand the work clearly. Now, if we come to the literary production, literary creation of Amish Tripathi, we find the Immortals of Meluha is his first creation and the first book in Shiva Trilogy. We have 2 series, Shiva Trilogy and Ramchandra series. So this novel, the Immortals of Meluha, is his first fictional work in the Shiva Trilogy, and it was published in the year 2010. The second book of this series is The Secret of Nagas, and it was released in the year 2011. And the third and the last book of this series is entitled The Oath of Vayuputras, and it was published in 2013. Now, the Scion of Ikshwaku was released in 2015. It is the first book in the Ramchandra series. It follows the story of Ram and is a prequel, because we have heard the word sequel. It is a prequel to the Shiva Trilogy. This work, the Scion of Ikshwaku, won the Crossword Books Best Popular Award. So we have come to this Ramchandra series, the first book of the Ramchandra series, the Scion of Ikshwaku. Then we come to Sita, the warrior of Mithila. Sita, the warrior of Mithila, is sequel to the Scion of Ikshwaku. It was published in 2017. It opened on the national bookseller list and became the highest selling book of 2017. Then Ravan, the enemy of Aryavarta, the third book in the Ramchandra series, and it was published in 2019. So we have seen 2 series. One, we have Shiva Trilogy, and then we come to Ramchandra series. In Shiva Trilogy, we have the Immortals of Meluha, we have the secret of Nagas, and we have the oath of Vayuputraj. In Ramchandra series, we have the Shion of Ikshvaku, we have Sita, the warrior of Mithila, and then we have Ravan, the enemy of Aryavarta. Now, then we come to a book which was published on 20th June 2020, and when it was released, actually, it was there on the social media also. That was The Legend of Suheldev, the King Who Saved India. This is the seventh book, Legend of Suheldev, the King Who Saved India, and it was published on 20th June 2020. Now, apart from these seven fictional works, there are two important non-fictional works which were written by Amish. One is Immortal India. It was published in the year 2017. This Immortal India is a collection of his writings, such as articles published in various newspapers, speeches he wrote, debates he took part in, and selected interviews at public forums. Then we come to the second non-fictional work, and it is entitled Dharma, Decoding the Epics for a Meaningful Life. It was co-authored by Tripathi's sister, Bhavana Roy. So we have seven fictional works, three of Shiva Trilogy, three of Ramchandra series, and one which was published in 2020, in the year 2020, Legend of Suheldev, the King Who Saved India, and two non-fictional works, one Immortal India and the other Dharma, Decoding the Epics for a Meaningful Life. Now, in September 2020, Amish announced that he's turning into a producer as his latest novel, Legend of Suheldev, the King Who Saved India, is going to be made into a feature film. Tripathi will produce the film under his banner Immortal Studios along with Waku Films and Casa Media. So this was his role actually as a film producer. Now you can judge the popularity of the fictional works, the fictional writings, all the writings of Amish Tripathi, because on the basis that his fictional works have been translated into many languages, including Tamil, Hindi, Telugu, Bengali, Gujarati, Assamese, Malayalam, Marathi, Kannada, Portuguese, Indonesian, Polish, French, Odia. So all these languages, his works were translated, were published. In the year 2019, Tripathi was appointed by the Government of India as the director of the Nehru Centre, London. Now, considered a flagship centre of the Indian Council for Cultural Relations, ICCR, the Nehru Centre, established in London in 1992, has previously been directed by actor-director playwright Girish Karnad and diplomats such as Gopal Krishna Gandhi and Pawan Verma. Now, when we come to the list of the awards received by Amish Tripathi, so we have a huge list of the awards. He was listed among top 50 most powerful people by India today in the year 2019. Honorary doctorate by Jharkhand Rai University for outstanding contribution to art and literature 2019. Jasne-e-Yangistan Award 2018. Ustad Bismillah Khan Award 2018. Raymond Crossword Book Award, Dainik Bhaskar Literature Award, Society Young Achievers Award for Literature, Man of the Year by Radio City. So many awards he received. It shows the popularity of the writer. Now, coming to the novel, The Immortals of Meluha, and this is prescribed in your course, and it is not only here in our university. This is also prescribed in some other universities of India, and one must read this book. Not only the students of literature are reading this book. This is so interesting because when I started discussing this novel in the class, and I posted it on social media, so I got actually many responses from the side of the students that I have also read this book. This is one of the greatest books and all that, and they were not the students of literature. So, Immortals of Meluha is the first book, as I told you, of Amish Tripathi, the first book of Shiva Trilogy. This 400 plus page novel is classified under the category of fiction and mythology. The story is set in the land of Meluha and starts with the arrival of Shiva. The Meluhans believe that Shiva is their savior, Nilkant. Shiva decides to help the Meluhans in their war against the Chandravanshis. You have these, words like Chandravanshis, Shiva, Meluhan, that I'm going to explain them just after that. Very briefly about how does this work develop, this novel develop that I'm telling you. Now, Shiva decides to help the Meluhans in their war against the Chandravanshis, who had joined forces with accursed Nagas. However, during a journey and the fight that ensues, Shiva learns how his choices actually reflect who he aspires to be and how they lead to dire consequences. Now, Tripathi had initially decided to write a book on the philosophy of evil, but was dissuaded by his family members. So he decided to write a book on Shiva, one of Hindu gods. He decided to base his story on a radical idea that all gods were once human beings. It was their deeds in the human life that made them famous as gods. After finishing this work, The Immortals of Meluha, Tripathi faced rejection from many publication houses. Ultimately, when his agent decided to publish the book himself. When the book was published in February 2010, it went on to become a huge commercial success. The success of his debut book enforces him to give up his 14 years old career in financial services. Now, as I told you in the beginning that Amish believes that myths are nothing but jumbled memories of a true past, a past buried under mounds of earth and ignorance. This book has known characters from Hindu texts as well as those born from Tripathi's imagination. In order to understand this work well, I would like to introduce you with some important characters which are there in this particular text. We have the character of Shiva. Now, the main character of the story is Shiva. He is a Tibetan immigrant to Meluha and the chief of the Guna tribe. You have to focus your attention to all these important words if you want to understand the novel well. Shiva is a Tibetan immigrant to Meluha and the chief of Guna tribe. On arriving in Meluha and consuming the somaras, his throat turns blue, making him the Nilkanta of Meluhan legend, which speaks of the appearance of Nilkanta as a destroyer of evil. The Meluhans end up believing that Shiva would be their savior against evil. Then we have the character of Sati. Sati is the Meluhan's princess. She is the daughter of Emperor Daksha. Shiva falls in love with her but cannot marry her because of a law that considers her to be a Vikarma and untouchable. Vikarmas are people who bear misfortunes in this life due to sins of their past births. She is a skilled sword woman and is very brave since childhood. During the course of the novel, she marries Shiva and bears a child. So we have the character of Shiva, and then we have the character of Sati, the Meluhan princess. Then Lord of the people, Ganesh. So he's a powerful Naga with mysterious origins. Then we have the character of Nandi. Nandi, I think all these names are familiar with you. Nandi, a captain in Meluhan army, a loyal devotee of Shiva, who is often considered for his opinion and suggestions by Shiva. Then we have Veerbhadra, a captain of Shiva's army and his close childhood friend. Then we have Brahaspati, the chief Meluhan scientist who becomes Shiva's good friend. Then we have Daksha. I just told you about Daksha, the emperor of Meluhans. He is appreciative of every effort that Shiva does to save his country. Then we have Kanakhala, the prime minister of Daksha's royal court. Kanakhala is an extremely learned and intelligent woman. Then we have Parvateshwar, head of Meluhan army and a Survanshi. Parvateshwar is critical of Shiva's ways with the Meluhans and is loyal to Daksha. Then we have Ayurvati, the chief of medicine. Ayurvati is an intelligent and respected woman who is capable of curing any disease. She is the first to realize that Shiva is the Nilkant, their savior. So we have here the character of Shiva, Sati, Ganesh, Nandi, Veerbhadra, Brahaspati, Daksha, Kanakhala, Parvateshwar, Ayurvati. I have also used few words, the names of the places like Meluha and all that. So in order to understand it better, I would also like to explain these kingdoms. So we have Meluha, as I have just told you. Meluha is the empire of Chandravanshis. So you'll have in the novel Chandravanshis, Chandravanshis and the Nagas. So Meluha is the empire of Chandravanshis, also known as the land of pure life. Meluha is based in the area of the modern Indian province of Kashmir, Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, Delhi, Haryana, Rajasthan, Gujarat and whole of Pakistan. It also includes parts of eastern Afghanistan. Then we have another kingdom called Swadeep. So the empire of Chandravanshis, also known as the island of individual. So Swadeep comprises the modern Indian provinces of Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Sikkim, Assam, Meghalaya and all of the country of Bangladesh besides most parts of Nepal and Bhutan. Then we have Dandak forest, located in the modern Indian province of Maharashtra and parts of Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Chhattisgarh, Odisha and Madhya Pradesh. Dandak is a dense and treacherous forest where the Nagas reside at their capital Panchavati. So we have these places like Meluha, kingdoms, Swadeep and Dandak forest. Now we have three important races as I have just told you: Suryavanshis, Chandravanshis and Nagas. So who are the Suryavanshis? The Suryavanshis are the followers of Rama and the solar calendar and try to lead a life that is as ideal as possible. The Suryavanshis believe in Satya, Dharma and Man, truth, duty and honor. The Chandravanshis are followers of lunar calendar. Traditionally, the Chandravanshis and Suryavanshis are enemies. They are democratic dynasty who believed in Shringar, Saundarya and Swatantrata, that is passion, beauty and freedom. Then we have Naga, a cursed race of people who have physical deformities. They are extremely skilled warriors. So we have Suryavanshis, Chandravanshis, and Nagas. So before I tell you the plot or the development of the story, I have just told you about the characters, also about the kingdoms, and also about the races. So we have the races of Suryavanshi, Chandravanshis, and Nagas. We have kingdoms or places like Meluha, Swadeep, and Dandan forest. And I have told you about the characters like Ayurvati,